Chuckleenic. I'm a reenactor. And for 36 years in the classroom, I tried to bring history to life by wearing the garb for the time period that we were covering, kind of doing the living history thing. And I would bring in artifacts or replicas of artifacts that my students could handle. If you want to get in the fancy teacher lingo that you fill in on your evaluation forms, that's realia and manipulatives. And it's an attempt to make things more real for my students, because I was also that kind of kid that I had to touch things, and I was a terror in museums. And I would also have the music playing in the background for whatever time period we were covering, and I'd even have a now playing board so my kids could learn the music, and this was just to immerse them completely in the process. Well, I'm not in the classroom anymore, but I still have an entire room full of garb at the house. I still have that passion for bringing the past to life. I have a desire to preserve landmarks because I've seen them go away. I also am kind of rediscovering my love of anthropology and archaeology. And I love to play history detective. So I'm repurposing myself, and what I'm doing is now involved in a very pretentious sounding Mission Odyssey, where I intend to tell the story of each of the sites involved with the missions in Alta California, and some of the sites that are going to be important after the mission period. And I intend to tell each of the stories of these places while in garb and document the experience, just to create a visual record. So what I'm doing today is I'm finishing up my work on Mission Soledad. And if I'd done this the way I was supposed to do it originally, when I conceived of this, I would have just been visiting each of the missions in one savage burn. Well, COVID-19 happened, and also there was something else. I realized as I explored each of these places, I tended to find more things that would fit into a single video. So I keep going back. So now what I'm doing is I'm heading back to Mission Soledad and want to tell the story of that mission. And I hope you stick with me on the journey. With an irrigation system built from the Salinas River, the mission transformed the valley, and it did prosper even though the weather extremes limited the length of time any of the Padres wanted to stay at the site. There were about 30 assigned to the mission during its short life. There was ample room for flocks and herds, and although the soil was not the best and much irrigation was necessary to produce good crops, the Padres coaxed the land into life. The Rio de Monterrey, now called the Salinas River, was used for livestock needs mostly, but the water was too low to tap for irrigation. The Arroyo Seco, 4 leagues south and east of the mission, brought seasonal waters, a 15-mile-long zanja or aqueduct dug by the neophytes, which was rediscovered by archaeologists from Cal State Monterey Bay in 2007, eventually irrigated some 20,000 acres in the Llano del Rey, or lands around the mission. Agricultural production at Soledad ranked it at the bottom third of the mission chain. At the close of the 9th year of the mission, that would be 1800, there were several thousand head of cattle, several thousand sheep, and a good supply of horses. Governor Echeandía demanded in 1827 an inventory of holdings for each of the missions, describing mission boundaries, neighboring estancias, mission outposts. Soledad's boundaries met with those of Mission San Carlos, or Carmel, on the west, and stretched from La Laguna de los Palos on the south to Chualar on the north. There were at one point 16,000 head of livestock, and in 1829 the mission was able to furnish the Monterrey Presidio with $1,100. Padre Ibanez dedicated 15 years of his life to this mission. It was during his term of service that the first Spanish governor of Alta California, Jose Joaquin de Arriaga, was touring the missions. That was in July of 1814. The governor took ill and was hurried to Soledad to be under the care of his old friend, Padre Ibanez. During his stay at Soledad, he died and was buried in a Franciscan habit under the floor of the church, as he requested. This is the church that was later destroyed in the 1824 flood. 4 years later, on November 26, 1818, Padre Ibanez died. So, why am I dressed all nautical, and why is the ocean behind me when we're talking about Mission Soledad, which is considered one of the inland missions? I didn't realize it, but when the notorious pirate Hippolyte Bouchard burned the Presidio in Monterey in 1818, the folks from the Presidio and Mission San Carlos fled inward and went to Mission Soledad for sanctuary. Nothing gets untouched by this pirate. Because of Bouchard, Padre Esteban Tapis, the presidente of the mission chain, was forced to relocate the headquarters of the Alta California missions to Mission Soledad. You can say a lot of negative things about the missions, but you can also see individual character. Padre Seria, who wrote a medical text, the first written in Alta California, stayed on here when the mission hit impoverished times. He stayed regardless. And the neophytes saw that. When the Padre passed in the middle of Mass, they carried his body on a litter from here to Mission San Antonio de Padua to see that he, was buried properly. That meant carrying his body in a litter a distance of 25 miles. Effectively, that ended Mission Soledad. The Secularization Act of 1834 removed Mission Soledad's name from the rolls of active missions. It would now be a parish church. And in 1836, administrators were sent out to inventory the assets of the now former Mission Soledad, and it was listed there were some 5,000 vines, and there were, between the cattle and the sheep, nearly 600 head of livestock and about 32 horses. And these are assets that are going to be going away. Oh, and then there was a description of liquid assets at about $550. But the mission is being gutted. Secularization is going to hit Mission Soledad real hard. Even though the secularization laws were ratified in 1834 and land was supposed to be turned over to the mission neophytes so they could found their own ranchos. Of course, that didn't happen. And what ended up taking place is in 1846, Pio Pico had another one of his fire sales, and I think he sold the rights to the mission for like $500, maybe. And what ended up happening in time is the mission became a ranch house, and the various neophytes drifted away to the other ranchos to try to find work as vaqueros. The tiles for the roof were sold, and that pretty much allowed the building to deteriorate, and the mission will end up being abandoned for about 100 years. In June of 1846, American settlers seized control of the undefended Mexican government outpost of Sonoma. By July 2nd, they'd taken control of Yerba Buena, later called San Francisco. And by July 5th, John C. Fremont of the U.S. Army combined his forces with the rebels and formed the California Battalion. Then Lieutenant Colonel John C. Fremont was mustering his forces at Mission San Juan Bautista. And on November 16th, what's going to end up happening is American forces who are attempting to get a hold of a herd of horses for Fremont's California Volunteers run into some Californios, and the Battle of Natividad ensues. And during the battle, 4 Americans are killed, and as far as the Californios, no Californios died in this, but several were wounded. However, this is viewed as an American victory because the American forces were able to save the herd of horses, or steal the herd of horses, from the Californios, and those horses would allow Fremont's forces to travel here to Mission Soledad and further on, and ultimately end up signing the Treaty of Cahuenga, or Treaty of Capitulation, in 1847. In 1849, J. Ross Brown wrote, "A more desolate place cannot well be imagined. The old church is partially in ruins, and the adobe huts built for the Indians are roofless, and the walls tumbled about in shapeless piles. Not a tree or shrub is to be seen anywhere in the vicinity. The ground is bare like an open road, save in front of the main building, where carcasses and bones of cattle are scattered about, presenting a disgusting spectacle." Now, even though Mission Soledad was re-granted to the Bishop of Monterey in 1859, President Lincoln is going to sign a proclamation that states that as of May 23rd, 1862, mission lands would be given back to the church. However, Mission Soledad is in ruins. There's nothing left but adobe stubs, and it's not reoccupied. For the next century, except for artists doing paintings of picturesque ruins and photographers recording the decay, Mission Soledad was largely ignored. Reconstruction of the mission began in 1954. So far, we've got 13 missions out of the way. That's kind of an unlucky number. And 7 asistencias, a couple of estancias, and 2 presidios. Well, now I'm on my way to the Presidio at Monterey, or what's left of it, and see what we can see. And I hope you'll stick with me on my journey.